Hello. Welcome to the next episode of Azure Community MTS. My name is Nicholas, and I'm joined with Robbins.
Hello, everyone.
So we're going to do some housekeeping for this session. So let me just share my screen. Can you all see that? Yeah.
It's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just make it more festive. So it's welcome to, I think, this is now the 7th episode of this is a group. And as you know, to stay up to date, you can always follow us on social media, like LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. If you miss any episode, you can just go back easier you want. And this is the code of conduct. So yeah, all members.
You want me to? Yeah, you want me to do it? Or
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sure. So code of conduct. All members of this group should adhere to this code of conduct, right? So most things are pretty obvious, but let's go through them anyway. So be friendly and welcoming to everyone. Be patient. Be thoughtful. Be respectful and inclusive, and be open and curious. Right. So ask questions to understand and not criticize.
Yeah. So this is our agenda for today. So it's going to be based on Azure OpenAI and bit of some FinOps. So the first session in a few minutes will be Estavio. So sorry if I pronounced it wrong. And Salim from Amber Tech. And he's doing a session on effective cloud resource management, unleashing FinOps for Azure cloud optimization. Would you like to do the other one, Robin?
Yeah, sure. So that will be Rod Trent, cloud security advocate and global Microsoft Sentinel subject matter expert at Microsoft, about crafting a subject-centric sidekick with Azure Cognitive Services and Azure OpenAI. Let's do this, right? For both sessions.
Okay. So it will go roughly 9:30, 9:40, and then the next episode would be on the 8th of January. It will be a session on test AKS Vision with Chaos Engineering by Steve Buston and Create and Tech by Samuel Muskran. So it's giving you some advice, tip how you can join the big tech firms and stuff. And so last but not least, we all advise you just make it interactive, ask questions, and then we just make it fun because it's Christmas period. Okay, so the first session in a few minutes will be Estevão. Let me bring him on. So we can. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Let me just share my screen. Just a minute. Sharing. All right.
So we can still be on the screen, but we can just unmute ourselves if needed. Let me see. Yeah.
So I hope you can see my screen. Is all good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm Estevão. You almost pronounced it correctly, Nick. It's I know it's quite challenging to pronounce my name because it's a Portuguese name, but you can go by Steve. It's absolutely fine. Right. I'm going to talk about FinOps on Azure, and the title of my talk is Efficient Cloud Resource Management, Unleashing FinOps for Azure Cost Optimization. So we're going to actually scratch the surface of FinOps on Azure because there's so much to talk, and I'll try to do my best here to give an overview, and then you can ask questions, make it interactive, and yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a software architect, currently work for InBev Tech, which is a branch of ABI and Anheuser-Busch InBev, which is in turn the largest brewery company in the world. But I'd like to make a disclaimer here. The opinions I'm going to show here and give are my own. I'm not representing them. I'm not talking on behalf of them. And yeah, that's it. I hold many different certifications in this role of software architect and developer. We have to have this broad knowledge. And as you can see, I have certifications in Java, Kubernetes, and Azure, and all that stuff. And I have a background in computer science. I hold a PhD where I could study part in Brazil and part in the UK. Right? So this is our agenda for today. I'm going to bring an introduction where we talk about the motivation behind FinOps. We see a lot of people talking about FinOps, but yes, why are we talking about FinOps? And that's the main subject of this first part. Then where can I save money? We're going to go through the Azure FinOps review assessment. We'll see how to analyze costs and also how to optimize costs. And here I'll concentrate on two resources, messaging and database, because, you know, again, there is a lot of resource and we could stay the whole week here and it would be impossible to address all the resource. Okay, if we have time, we are going to do some sort of interactive session, architecting on Azure, where I bring a case study on Service Bus to decide whether we use standard tier or premium tier. And sometimes things are not actually what they seem to be. You know, you need to go deep and investigate the resource and, of course, the context, most importantly, the context where you are, to select the appropriate resource. Then I'll conclude my talk and bring the key takeaways. Right. Why have companies moved to the cloud? This is a very basic question, and most of you must know this. But to know a bit more about FinOps, we have to understand to get back to these concepts. Well, there are a lot of reasons. Security, we don't want to be concerned about the underlying infrastructure, so Microsoft provides it for us. We want to scale fast and have high availability. We also want to have agility. You know, when we had on-premises environments, we had to go to the procurement division, ask them to buy stuff and wait for the hardware to arrive. So in the cloud, we don't need it anymore. We just spin up the resource we want. And also we have access to modern technology. You can see now OpenAI, and imagine it on premise. How could you leverage it? You would probably use ChatGPT and the API and call this API and that stuff. And yeah, also we are concerned about disaster recovery and business continuity. We want to guarantee no business interruption. And most importantly, we want to save costs, right, when we move to the cloud, because when difficult times come, you can shrink your infrastructure. And then when you need to scale, you can scale quite fast. And so naturally, you would have a more appropriate resource allocation in terms of money. So, and when we move to the cloud, we are basically shifting the way we operate. We had previously, when we worked on-premise, we had a capital expenditure, and we are shifting to operational expenditure. And the question is, are we ready? I mean, we spin up VMs, we create AKS node pools and all that stuff like we did before on-premise. But are we ready? Are we keeping control over the costs? Because when we had on-premise all these resources, we just, please create a VM for me, and that's fine. And if you have any resource idling, everything was okay, right? So, and I brought here a survey from Cloud Zero, which interviewed more than 1,000 professionals, engineering, finance professionals, and they reported that the costs of their cloud were higher than they should be. And this number is staggering. It's 60%. So 60% of the interviewed subjects were not satisfied with their costs. Clearly, we have a problem here, right? All right, if they are not satisfied with the costs, there is something wrong. And where should we look? And in another survey now by Flexera, they asked respondents of cloud engineers and all the people involved in cloud and finance, and they said that 28% of their resource were being wasted. And this number is from this year, from November 2023. So last year, this number was 32%. So we are wasting less, right? We had in a year of efficiency, 2023, we saw a lot of layoffs, people caring about costs and all that stuff. So, and the main reasons, as I said before, the first one is idling. We have the resource idling. And the other reason is we are underusing, we are poorly optimizing our cloud resource. So clearly we have an opportunity there. And so who cares about the cloud costs? So we can see in this graph, and this is from Cloud Zero again, the C-levels and the board level are quite concerned because, of course, it's all about money. For them, the business are created to make money. And so if they are concerned about costs, we'll probably have another year of efficiency. 2024, you can expect another year of efficiency. And I brought here another survey from Vertis, where they interviewed a lot of participants. I don't have the number, but I left the link here, and I'll share this presentation. Then you can click and find yourself the number of participants. But basically, they said that 71% of finance leaders were targeting SaaS spend. Look, we are not talking about IaaS and not PaaS here, but SaaS itself represents up to 50% of the total spending of the companies. So, and they are putting these SaaS spend as one of the top 3 measures to save money in 2024. So we have the market growing, and of course, if we have a high demand, prices increase, right? We are paying more for the resource than, let's say, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We have cloud wasting. We are wasting resource. We are poorly optimizing them. We have left them idling. And we have to deal with cloud cost management because there is a lot of information. How can we tackle it in a structured way? All right, that's where FinOps come into action. And here I brought a definition from the FinOps Foundation. And this definition basically says we have to have an accountability mindset. We have to shift the way that we operate. We have to collaborate. And this is basically what's said here. FinOps is an operational framework and cultural practice which maximizes the business value of cloud, enables timely data-driven decision-making, and creates financial accountability through collaboration between engineering, finance, and business teams. You can see here, it's not only a matter of engineering, and everybody should collaborate together to create this financial accountability. So I brought this short video from FinOps where we can be introduced to the FinOps model and phases from the FinOps Foundation. Let me try to play it and see if the sound comes out. So can you hear the audio? All right.
We can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
No.
So let me try to open on another screen. Advertising. Let me skip it. So can you hear now, Nick?
Play it and see. No.
There's an option when you share, in StreamYard, when you share the screen, there's an option, there's a toggle switch to share the audio as well, I think.
Let me see if, yes, I know we have this on Zoom and other platforms, but I can't see it here.
Unshare again with audio and see.
All right, let me stop and then share a screen. Some screen let you share audio. Look for the share audio checkbox on the next window. All right, let me try it again. FinOps to share. Okay. To share audio, share a tab or a screen instead. Chrome tab. What is FinOps? All right. Also share. So thanks, Rod. You saved my day. Let me play it again.
So you've been running your infrastructure in the cloud.
Is that right?
Spurred incredible levels of innovation. But now you're blowing past budget forecasts and you're not entirely sure why. The problem is
sorry.
in the cloud, and it's spurred incredible levels of innovation. But now you're blowing past budget forecasts and you're not entirely sure why. The problem is the same model that's empowered your team has pushed procurement to the edges of your organization, and the old centralized control methods just aren't working. You need a model that gives your teams a common language, one that gets them communicating so they can manage costs without sacrificing the flexibility and velocity. That's the whole point of cloud. To operate at scale in the cloud, something new is required. Welcome to FinOps. FinOps is an operating model that brings financial accountability to variable spend in the cloud. Using FinOps, your tech, finance, and business leadership teams share the same language and processes so they can manage cloud spend while maintaining velocity. The model consists of 3 distinct phases. The inform phase gives you visibility into cloud costs, allocation, and for creating shared accountability by showing teams what they're spending and why. The optimize phase empowers your teams to take the right optimization actions based on your goals. And the operate phase refines those shared IT, finance, and business leadership goals to focus and scale your operational efforts through continuous improvement. By breaking down the silos between teams, FinOps improves the unit economics of cloud, so you can increase your usage without increasing your bill. With FinOps, your teams work together to optimize the speed, cost, and quality of your cloud, empowering them to truly rule your cloud spending. Find out more at finops.org.
Good. Let me get back to my presentation again. Share, stop, present, share screen. Okay, screen 2. All right, we just saw the definition of FinOps from FinOps Foundation. And these are the phases that we saw in the video. And I'd like to highlight them. So the first phase is inform. We have to have everybody, I would say, business, financial, and operational stakeholders informed. We have to give visibility. We have to benchmark and forecast our costs to create some sort of transparency, right? And then we have this optimized phase. This is more engineering stuff where we architect things, right? We try to right size to choose the correct resource. And also we have this phase operate, which is something I think it's quite different from the on-premise environment. Now we break the silos as we saw in the video, and everybody should participate here to create policies, models, to keep track of the business objectives, to create metrics and everything else, right? So, and indeed, in the third episode of the Azure Community Enthusiasts, we had a talk on cloud spend, and it's all about money, and it was presented by Dean Matheson. And he brought, the link is here. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you go back after this talk and watch this video. But basically, he brought a model as well, and it's in parentheses here. And I have mapped his model to the FinOps phases. Basically, we have the understand, which is the inform phase, the optimize, which matches exactly the same word, and the operate phase, which he called control. And so in that talk, he talked about Azure. Let me just get the laser pointer. He talked about the Azure pricing calculator, TCO calculator, all the basic stuff on Azure FinOps, which we are not going to address here anymore. And also when we talked about optimization, we went through the storage account tiering, lifecycle, region prices to improve our costs and to save costs, and right sizing of VMs, backups, and all that stuff. And finally, he touched the license subject, which I classified in the operate phase. So what's different here then? I'll concentrate in the native tools to be informed about the costs. So we're going to navigate through the cost management blade. And also we will touch the database and messaging resource on Azure and how can we select and see the different prices you can have depending on what you choose. Okay, where can we save money then? So before we talk where we can save money, I highly recommend you go through the FinOps Review Assessment. This is a free tool offered by Microsoft. And let me just open the browser to show it on the screen. So you answer a lot of questions and about different main topics. And the questions are, You can see here the domains. I select the understand cloud usage and cost, cloud usage optimization. And the questions are like this. In your organization, product owners and engineers are, and you have the options, and I selected aware of service application costs, right? And after answering these questions, you get this report, overall results, which classifies your practices. And also there is a section on how to improve the results and recommendations. And when you click on some recommendation, you have this beautiful Microsoft learning stuff here, where you can explore and see how can you improve your costs, right? Moving on then. Okay, we saw that review assessment is a great tool, but it will not say to you where you are spending money. And I brought this graph from Vertis again, from November 2023. And it breaks down the categories of resource where most of Vertices, I think it's their customers, are spending money on cloud. So you can see that compute is the first one. It's the highest cloud spending category.
Sorry, I got a question.
Yes, please.
Because FinOps is so like quite new, because it's been around like I think 2012. So what do the small businesses use then? How do they develop FinOps? Because FinOps is mostly for large scale enterprise companies that have the manpower to create teams of people.
Yes, exactly. I would say I work for an enterprise company, and of course, it demands time to create a cloud excellence center, and it requires you some investment. But
I mean, what if that company only have 200 employees? Would you advise them to approach FinOps or just be aware of costs in that way?
I would say to them to be aware, of course, and start small. Start small. We're going to go through from some scenarios on messaging database where you have to select the service. So you don't have to choose the best or most powerful service, because it's just the most powerful resource you have.
Okay.
So you can start small, and then if you need, you scale. And of course, as the company grows, you can, I would say, you can introduce the FinOps framework, and but the mindset you can leverage it, right? You don't have to apply everything, because perhaps it would be a bit heavy option, but yeah, you can leverage some concepts, because you certainly benefit from it, right?
Okay, thanks.
So, and then as we can see, compute, VMs, Kubernetes nodes, application services, everything is here in compute. And so clearly, if you are in an enterprise environment, you can jump into compute, because there will be a lot of opportunities, and also database. And yeah, and that's true. I can say it from my own experience. Sometimes you choose a database and a lot of resource are being idling or wasted, and you have a lot of opportunities to save costs, right? So, and how do we see and monitor costs of resource? Maybe this is a little bit basic for some, would say, mid-senior professionals, but for those who are just starting with Azure, you have the resource groups, and when you click on the resource group, you have the cost management blade, and you have this option cost analysis. And it breaks down the cost by service. You have the actual cost and the forecast cost for the remaining of the month, and it's quite useful. I would say startups, please go and start with that stuff. You don't need to create some Power BI or invest money into it, because you can do it ahead, but it takes a lot of money, and maybe it's not what you should focus on when you're starting a business. Right. One question I frequently see is, So I have this actual cost and I have this amortized cost. And what is the difference between the two? And so the actual cost is the cost without reservations. So in January, when you purchased, let's say, a VM reservation, the bill will come in January, and the other months will not have this cost. And when we are talking about amortized cost, this cost is spread throughout the reservation time. And this is quite useful. And when you are budgeting, you are creating the budgets for the next year, you can see what you have to spend on. And maybe if you had just looked at the actual cost, the cost of the reservation would be hidden in January, and you would suffer in the following year, right? You can create, obviously, budgets and be alerted on the thresholds. If you, again, this is quite useful for startups. You can say, oh, my budget this month is X, and if I reach 90% of this budget, please send an email to someone. I left the links here as well to the documentation, so you can explore. And recently, we have this amazing tool that everybody is talking about, Copilot for Azure. So what if you could use AI like ChatGPT to gain control over your cloud spend in Azure? So here I brought just this little excerpt of a picture where someone asked, virtual machines charge look too high. Is this normal? And Azure answered, charge for a virtual machine has indeed recently spiked for the month of May. Here are the charges over the past 6 months. And then you can analyze the cost. This is straightforward. You don't need to go through the cost management blade. And you can ask questions like, my business is growing and I think we need to double our storage scale. And how much would my bill be then? So you can forecast the cost here. And it's quite amazing. So I have tried Copilot. I was a little bit unlucky. I asked questions about costs and it didn't answer me. Maybe it was permission. But I asked the questions. I was not sure whether I should use storage queues or subsibers for a simple messaging scenario. And I asked it, and it answered quietly well. I had this requirement for deduplication, and it suggested Azure subsibers, which we don't have this feature in Azure Storage Queue. So these are the questions you might ask. How do I reduce the cost of my virtual machines and help me choose the right VM for my workload? And then you explain your workload and summarize my costs for the last 6 months. There's a lot to explore. I also brought an open source tool here created by Michiel van Oudoosten. I guess he's Dutch, I'm not sure. But he created this amazing tool, command line tool, where you can log into Azure, and then you can ask things like Azure cost by resource, and then you pass the subscription, and it prints out all the information related to it. So it's quite useful when you have a DevOps pipeline and you want to publish these reports to, let's say, somewhere else, or to send an email to someone, and you can, let's say, run this pipeline monthly to send this email to your boss, and you can leverage this tool in Azure DevOps. So let me just see how much time. So we are almost running out of time. So let's talk about subsibers and storage queues. Then I got that example from Copilot for Azure, but let's imagine we had an application where we want to decouple some processing to, let's say, do it in the background to process something asynchronous, right? So we have these two services, storage queue. The use case is for simple point-to-point communication with high speed and volume throughput. And we have the subsibers, advanced message scenarios with publish subscribe, which is topics in subsibers, temporal decoupling, and more. So basically, I'm not going to read the difference between them, but basically you have two options, right? And I've seen a lot of people jumping into Azure Service Bus because it's the most popular service. It's specifically for messaging, and they have basically ignored storage queue. But let's move on and analyze the cost of it. So with Service Bus, we have this cost per million operations, which is 5 cents, right? And we have a storage queue, which is a little bit cheaper. This class of operations are get, send, and all this kind of stuff. But the price is basically the same, right? So you can see that Service Bus is a little bit more expensive, but you have the first 13 million operations included. So that's free, and that's the trap, I would say. And then you jump into Service Bus, but you have to pay the base charge, which you don't have on storage queues. So if we analyze the cost, if we have 1 million operations, Service Bus will not charge you the operations, but will charge you the base charge, which is 9.81. And the storage queue, you're gonna pay for 1 million operations roughly $5, right? Sorry, $4. And if we have 13 million operations, again, storage queue is still cheaper. And again, as you increase, you can see that storage queue is cheaper than Service Bus. So what is the difference here? In Service Bus, you have ordering guarantee, you have a deduplication system, you have automatic dead lettering, you can use more advanced protocols like AMQP, and you can have higher messages in terms of size. So basically, Microsoft says if you don't need these features, then you go to storage queues, right? And storage queues has something more here. If you have to store over 80 gigabytes, storage queues will be in place for you, and Service Bus is limited to 80 gigabytes. All right, I'm not sure we'll have time to talk about the database, and we have, I think, 5 minutes to questions and answers, and I'll move this, but I'll share, I promise you, I'll share this presentation on LinkedIn, and also I'll share with Nick, which in turn can share on LinkedIn as well. But basically, we would go through some sort of the same analysis when it comes to Azure SQL Server. And then we would have this architecting stuff where we would analyze the case study of Service Bus, which I would show you basically that sometimes the standard tier is cheaper, of course, the premium tier when we have, I would say, a low number of operations. But as it increases, the premium services can save you money. Believe me, premium tier can save you money over the standard tier. And we would do this production analysis as well when we would have messaging units when using the premium tier. And still, it would be cheaper than the standard tier. All right, scaling, we're not going to talk about this. So this is the conclusion of my talk. I would strongly recommend you consider the context you are inserted, the scenario you are, and don't take anything for granted. Go deep and do your work, the analysis that should be taken, and also follow the good practice. We saw the FinOps Foundation. We went through the FinOps review assessment. There is also this checklist of the well-architected framework. There is a cost optimization pillar, which is quite useful to see if you are following the good practice preached by the well-architected framework. And always be frugal, regardless if you are in an enterprise company or if you are a startup. Always think small, and then you grow. Of course, if you have information that you're going to have a high load, you can then measure what you need and apply what you need. And I also left this website of the Frugal Architect, where all the things are revolve around cost and the business and the impact that we have on business. And I would recommend it for those who are architecting solutions on Azure or maybe other cloud provider. All right, many thanks for your attention. Robin, Nick, thanks for having me here. I'm all ears now for the questions if you have any. And yeah.
I have another one. So how is the FinOps here? Is that the same as green software? When people said everything needs to be green, the term is green software, or just FinOps is just a terminology?
Well, I think it's just the. Let me see if I understood the question correctly. You're saying about the green stuff, right?
Yeah,
on FinOps.
green. Yeah.
Well, I don't have information because this is more on the background of the Azure and that stuff that they are applying to hardware. But when we think small, we are actually being green, right? We are being sustainable because we are using less resource, and automatically we are, of course, saving money and using less energy. So consequently, we are being green, I would say. But it's quite difficult to measure that. I would say that perhaps while working with the physical hardware at Microsoft, AWS, and GCP, Google GCP, they would have certainly more information on that.
Okay. Anyone have any question? Robin, Rod, for Estavio regarding FinOps?
No questions from my side.
All right.
Yeah. So
thank you again.
A question here. So if there's any question, we just spoke to you. So.
All right. Thank you very much again.
Okay.
And yeah, it's now with Rod.
Yeah.
All right. Are you turning over to me? I don't know if you know what you're doing by doing that, but that was great, by the way.
Yeah.
I started while you were talking. I was looking in so I'm getting ready to talk about co-pilots. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually started looking at mine because we're going to talk about here shortly how to build your own co-pilots like Azure's doing, and we do with we have one for Windows, we have one for Edge, we have one for everything. But talk about how to build your own. So we're going to do that. But I thought that was interesting because it's been a while since I went in and looked. So I've added this to the end. I'll show you what it actually costs to run your own co-pilot. So thanks for the FinOps stuff. That actually got me interested to look. And because I know I've had that question before. Okay, this is cool, Rod. I appreciate it, but how much is it going to cost me? So that reminds me, we'll take a look at that at the end.
Yeah, and the co-pilot in preview is free. And you can ask Microsoft to enable it for you, and it's free.
Yeah. I don't think I need to share my system audio.